Hi, y'all. Christy and Doug here from The Whole Athlete. We're both mental health therapists and past high level athletes. Doug is also a coach and a researcher on mental health and athletics. And we are the co founders of The Whole Athlete. And we provide holistic mental health resources for athletes.
And those who support them.
Indeed.
So that's coaches, physical therapists,
Parents,
totally.
As well as athletes like us who
Yeah.
once performed at a high level but now just do it.
Aging athletes.
There you go.
Yeah. One of the things that we talk a lot about is injury, because injury is like shifts something for athletes, right? Like you go from performing to all of a sudden you're like, I'm injured. And it seems just totally appropriate that I should, in fact, get injured in the process of, in the process of the discussions that we've been having. So we're going to use that as kind of material and to think about.
Yeah.
Think a little more about injury.
We're going to talk about, just have a little conversation about Doug's experience with his own injury and how that has impacted him and how he's worked through it, and hopefully that some of it might resonate with you guys. So just to start, fill the people in. On what happened.
On my high-level indoor soccer career.
Indeed, yes.
Yeah. So I was playing some indoor soccer. I was a goalkeeper back in college and professionally, and I don't play very often. I coach a ton, but I don't play very often. And every now and then I get requests to come play for an indoor team, and so I said yes. And I going into it, I had some trepidation about it. The shoes that I had I didn't like the kind of traction, and so there's a lot of, I was like, I hope these are going to be okay. I should have ordered some indoor shoes. So there's sort of this lead up to it, and then I'm out in the field. I wouldn't say I was playing great, but I was having an okay game. And then, the last minute of the game,
just when it always happens.
Always has to happen. When last couple seconds, I stepped forward really quickly to try and clear ball out with my feet, and I felt kind of like a pop and a little bit of like a tear, and I immediately knew that something had happened in my calf, and the ball went out of bounds. So I was kind of, grateful for that and was able to be like, I need a moment. But it was, I ended up playing the last 45 seconds of the game and was sort of able to hobble around a little bit, but it wasn't a great situation. So that was my injury. And then I drove home and spent a lot of time trying to figure out what had happened.
Yeah, so those are the nuts and bolts of what happened. Tell us what was happening in your head while this was all playing out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot kind of riding on it. In some ways I haven't, I've been lucky. I haven't had that many injuries and muscle injuries. So it was sort of this really distinct moment where I was like, ooh, I know I've really done something. Like people talk about that feeling of having a muscle pop. And it left nothing to question in my mind. I was like, I've definitely hurt myself. And so then from there, my mind started kind of going okay, well, it must be bad because it popped. And so I went pretty deep pretty quick, and I was like, I think it's my calf, but I know a number of people recently who've torn their Achilles or ruptured their Achilles, and that's like a year-long rehab and a surgery. And not fun. And then I started overlaying a lot of other stuff onto it. So as a soccer coach, I'm like, how am I going to go be on the field if I've ruptured my Achilles for a year? And a lot of what I do as a goalkeeper coach is striking soccer balls and trying to make sure the level is high enough for my goalkeepers that they're being challenged. And so then I'm starting to think about how is this going to impact the goalkeepers that I work with who I've got players who are on the cusp of the national team, and I'm starting to go, oh no, am I going to let them down? Am I going to let my the organization that I work for down? And then on top of that, I was like, oh, I agreed agreed to run a marathon, my first ever marathon, this fall with my best friend. And I was like, am I going to be able to do that? And so this is this thing that I was excited for, and, kind of got called into question. And we're supposed to go on vacation and go hiking, and, and so there just were like all of these different layers of ways that my life was impacted immediately, even though I didn't actually know how it was impacted. It just was like my mind kind of stitched up this story of, okay, you're going to be out for a long time, and here are all the things that are going to kind of like slip through your fingertips as a result of that.
Like the question of like how many layers and for how long is this going to impact me?
Right.
And like in ways that you just kind of take for granted usually too.
Yeah, totally.
Like, you just don't even think about being able to go out and go for a hike.
Right.
Or go out and do your job that you have to do every week.
Yeah. And like generally my body's been really good. I can, step out on the field. I probably should warm up more than I do, but like, it's like I can go out and I can kick soccer balls, and it's something that I am very grateful for. And, this has kind of sown like a different level of, like a level of fear into like, okay, what is possible now with my body? What happens if I get injured?
Right, which is a whole another element of it that is, age. That the reality is, as we age, as recreational athletes, being more prone to injury and having it be harder often to recover from those injuries. And that is an adjustment oftentimes from being a very capable-bodied person for a lot of the earlier years. Yeah.
I mean, it makes me think about, like, I was lucky enough to get in to see this doctor pretty quickly, and he was like, yeah, this is a pretty common thing for people who are, in their 40s and 50s, which I'm not. And it was kind of like, oh, I'm aging. But it also, like, on top of that, it left me with these sort of questions of, like, okay, so I am aging, and in what ways am I, like, in what ways have I created this problem for myself? Like I mentioned, the shoes that I wore, it's sort of like, it's like, oh, like, this wouldn't have happened if I had bought indoor shoes. And so it's like really easy to then, not only worry about what my future holds, but also like all the ways that I've created this like terrible future that I'm stepping into or limping into, perhaps.
Right. Yes, you're all those questions of like, what could I have done differently? What am I at fault for? Which and some might be legitimate. Like, probably would be more stable with better shoes, but also like when you're young, you can kind of get away with that kind of stuff, and having to learn like, what do I need? How do I need to take care of myself? While also, understanding that there's only so much that you can control for. You could do everything maximally right, and still think the weird thing could happen. Right.
Well, and I don't even think that's, it definitely comes into play more with age, because I think there are more ways to get injured, and we're more aware of the impact that it has. But I think about like a lot of the athletes that I work with who are like, if I hadn't, if I hadn't gone into this tackle, or if I hadn't taken this one step, and it's, I think all of this, as I'm thinking about it now, it's like, it's this like long story that my mind has started to spin about all the ways that I could have prevented this terrible thing from happening, assuming that I had known that it was going to happen, of course, which, we're not that fortunate.
No.
But it sort of becomes a little bit of a torture thinking about all the things that are changing, and also then like all the things that you could have done. And now I like can't walk, so I'm just like sitting on the couch, going, okay, all I can do is ice and elevate, which is, taking the rehab really seriously is great. And all of this is very good motivation to take it seriously. But boy, do I have a lot of time to sit there and worry about like
True, yes.
what I should have done, and what this is going to mean for me. Pretty rough process to sit in.
Right, that kind of frustrating reality that like injuries can be very disruptive, like literally, and also just mentally, emotionally, they're often very disruptive, regardless of the actual physical impact.
Right.
And then the reality that it takes away, like, just like a lot of your time, like that you would be doing athletics, and now you can't. And it takes away maybe some of your coping mechanisms, because like movement is very soothing and regulating for a lot of people, even if we don't think about it that way, and just leaves you to kind of sit there and naturally disruptive, but also creates this like space for that disruptiveness often to kind of just like circle and breed and become bigger and bigger and bigger,
right.
Whether or not that's actually the case.
Right. Yeah. And, I mean, I think one of the things I'm very grateful I was able to get in to see a doctor pretty quickly who, confidently was like, your Achilles is fine. And this is something that you're going to make a recovery from. It's going to take a little bit.
Yeah. I mean that, I don't want to interrupt your flow, but, like that kind of feels like an important segue into something we want to touch on of like, okay, yeah, here's this like reality. What do we do with that? The fact that it is disruptive and it creates all the space for your mind to spiral. Like, what did you do? What do you recommend people do if they find themselves in a similar spot? And you're talking about how going to the doctor was really was part of that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, so I think so much of what was hard is this, like, all of the uncertainty in that moment that I faced. And so going to the doctor was a way to get some answers, first of all. So that was a great place to start.
Yeah, kind of like grounded in reality.
Right.
Like what actually is going on here.
Right. And I think with that, like, there's a certain level of creativity that I was able to kind of start chewing on, that was like, okay, so if I am injured, how can my coaching job look? Like, what are things, like, all the goalkeepers that I work with are, not there because of me. They're there because they're very capable, talented goalkeepers. And like, how do we help, how do we shift, even with this kind of disruption, like how do we shift into something that still is going to work for everyone and really does take care of me? And so that, I think, creativity and starting, like, I think after I got the news from the doctor that like it's going to recover, I was able to shift into a little bit more of a creative place that allowed me to say, like, okay, something's lost, but not everything is lost. And that was really important.
And that maybe some other things can be gained through
that
creative process.
Totally. Like, I mean, I was like, okay, if I've torn my Achilles, maybe I'm going to get really good at cooking, or like maybe, who knows? Who knows what it's going to be? But like, we have a way of filling space. And the more that I get stuck in this place of being like, I don't know, I'm hurt and I can't do the thing I want to do, the harder it is for me to recognize that, like, there's still, it might not be running a marathon, but I'm still hoping to run the marathon. There might be something that I do really enjoy out there that does, give me life outside of, the limitations that I have with my calf.
I mean, I think this is a really interesting, like, there is a very big distinction between the impact of a short-term injury versus a more long-term injury.
Right.
And you have the good fortune of this being a short-term injury. Right. For the people who don't know, I have a history of long-term injury, tore ACL and meniscus, coupled with some health issues that have made the recovery from that a very long, drawn-out process. And that requires a very different type of creativity. And adjustment and like refocusing, where you have to really kind of get creative in the long term versus getting creative in the short term. So how about in the short term? How have you been creative? Because you're a very active person usually,
Yeah.
and you haven't been able to be. Has that been okay? Has that been hard? What have you done with that?
It's been okay. I mean, I think one of the things I was going to say that has been really helpful for me, um, my mind gravitates really quickly. I think probably a lot of athletes can relate to this, to the things that I can't do.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I think the doctor that I worked with did a really good job of is he told me what I can do.
Yeah.
He was like,
yes.
you're probably, he did tell me what I couldn't do. He was like, you're probably not playing soccer for a little bit. Like that's you can re-injure it doing that. But he was like, but I actually want you to try and get out of your boot as quick as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to try and walk around within reason.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I think has been really helpful. And I think the more that athletes try and frame things and like, okay, this is the thing that I can do, it actually gives them a little bit more power over this injury that's happened.
For sure.
And I also, I think, I'm thinking back to a conversation that we had with a physical therapist who talked about the value of like setting kind of benchmarks, like when you can do this thing, when you can, lift this much weight with your injured leg, then we can start thinking about running. And I think that is also something that's been helpful for me. It was like, okay, when I don't know, when I like get out of my boot, then I can think about like walking normally. And when I can think about walking normally, I can think about hiking. And so there's this sort of way where the progress that I make is like really directly moving towards something that I want to do. And with this injury, a lot of it's been like resting, but it's sort of also like making sure I'm elevating, making sure I'm icing, making sure I'm doing those little things, because I know, the sooner I get out of my boot, the better off I am doing the things that I want to do.
So kind of breaking it down into the things that you can do.
Yeah, right.
And remembering the bigger picture.
Right.
Like I am resting so I can.
Right.
Rather than I'm forced to rest because I can't.
Right.
Right.
And then
yeah.
Go for it.
You go.
Well, and I think figuring out how to work with pain, right? Like inevitably coming back from this is going to be a painful thing, and that pain both, our bodies get confused very easily. Like pain is both a indication of damage, but it is also like an indication of like recovery in a way.
Yeah, and growth and gaining strength.
Right. And so trying to not get too bothered by pain and trying to like really tune into that pain and figure out what type of pain is this, and then code it like, the day after. Okay, if I stepped in it, my calf felt really bad. The next hour, did it continue to hurt in that way? Did it tighten up the way that it did before? Okay, no, it didn't. All right, so it's, even though my calf is injured, I'm not going back to the place that I was the day of injury. And so kind of trying to unbraid almost the pain signals from the association that I've made to the moment that I got injured.
Not getting stuck in that like shit moment.
Yes.
And thinking and kind of reinforcing to yourself and your brain that you're stuck in that place.
Right.
Instead saying, okay, no, this is different, and this is necessary, and it is not necessarily bad.
Yeah.
Which I think is really important, and particularly like that's a whole nother ball of wax with long-term injuries.
Right.
Just how to navigate, because the pain signals I think get very, very complicated and can lead to patterns of getting stuck really easily. I know that's the case in my experience. So, but especially if you can catch it really early,
right?
Whatever the size of the injury, particularly with a short-term one, right? Really helpful.
Well, and I think oftentimes athletes need help from the medical community to understand what those pain signals mean.
Definitely.
Like, in some ways in the recovery, I should expect pain,
Mm-hmm.
but what kind of pain should I expect?
Yes.
And
how to decode those signals
and
label them appropriately.
Right. And so, like, I was lucky as I practiced the other night, and I was moving in a particular way, and our athletic trainer was there, and I was like, hey, I think this feels okay. Does this seem like something that is safe for me to do?
Mm-hmm.
And so, just kind of having some touch point saying, okay, I felt this pain, or, I think I'm progressing to this type of movement. Like, is that consistent with where I should be?
Yeah, asking for it if
Right.
it's not being given.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything else from this experience that you want to share with the people?
Community. Right. Like, I think it's so easy in sports where we're taught to push through things over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
It's so easy to say, like, I'm in this alone and I can do this alone. And, to some extent, like, probably I could.
Yeah.
But, having resources, having people around you, like, having people who check on you and know that you're going through something, and who are, like, willing to collaborate with you. Like, I have been lucky that I've got a couple of coaches who've been able to, like, I was at practice the other day, and one of my fellow coaches was like, hey, like, I'm not doing anything right now. Like, do you want me to help strike soccer balls?
Mm-hmm.
Or one of my coaches was like, she was like, I think you need to take today off. We can readjust things in this way. And, and having people who just kind of, like, are able to help you in those moments when your brain feels like it's kind of in this panic mode and it can't figure out how things could possibly proceed in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
That's been helpful.
Having people not just be like, get back out there, but having people that support you and can kind of help do some of the reality grounding and the creative thinking process and participate in that with you.
Right.
So that maybe help you get unstuck, help you kind of access more of what you need without feeling like you have to hide it or do it all yourself.
Right. Because it's a lonely experience. I mean, the, like, physical part of it's enough, and, like, I am the only one feeling my physical pain.
Yeah.
But it's even, I think, worse when we just have to try and, imagine all of these terrible futures by ourselves and not have someone be like, hey, like, that would be really terrible. Like, and also, like, let's get the information that we need. Or someone to say, like, what are you afraid of? And actually sit there and listen with you. Or, even sometimes someone to, like, push on you a little bit and reality test you and say, like, okay, I know that you're afraid that you ruptured your Achilles, based on how you're moving your foot right now. Like, I think you're okay. Now, yes, we need more information, but, like, let's take the facts that are in front of us, not assume something much larger than we actually are seeing right now.
Yeah, try and stop those trains from totally taking off and flying down the tracks.
They go quick.
They do. They get going. Choo choo. Here we go. Well, thanks so much for joining us for this conversation. We hope that some of what we shared resonates with all of you.
Make sure to like and subscribe if it's something that interests you or resonates.
Yeah, and we'll be posting more of these conversations in the months and weeks to come on all sorts of different topics that relate to mental health and being an athlete at all different levels, as well as content for, like we said, the people that support them, coaches, parents, PTs, trainers. We love delving into these ideas and sharing them with you all. We'll also throw our website down in the description. Please check us out. We've got a library of trainings available on there, and we also are in the process of getting ready to launch some more ongoing live stuff that we'll be sharing with everybody. So,
to my injured friends out there, stay motivated. Keep hanging on. Take up a new hobby, maybe. But I hope that we offered you something here to help get you through for the time being.
Yeah. Cheers. Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.